What if Sanji had a devil fruit of his own? We're gonna review my top pick first and then go into what Oda personally picked for Sanji. Disclaimer, heavy spoilers for the entirety of One Piece. My pick, the Cook fruit. It's strange that no one has talked about this yet, because there could not be a more perfect devil fruit out there for Sanji. If there's one place our favorite blonde-haired ballerina kicks butt in more than kicking actual butt, it's in front of a kitchen stove, attacking taste buds with a mouth-watering assault of flavors. Sanji's cooking is his no man's land, his Hague, his one neutral ground. If there's a hungry person in front of him, it doesn't matter if they are friend, foe, monster, or savior. They will have a meal in front of them come hell or high water. And if it's a lady customer, whew, you better bring a telescope, because that meal's gonna have more Michelin stars than a whole galaxy. Sanji believes in a world where no one should go hungry, no matter what their background is. And as a supporting clause of that, believes in the philosophy that good food can sprout from anywhere, referring to the G7 filler arc where Sanji cooks a great dish out of leftovers. World-class ingredients and uber-expensive rarities do not make a great dish, but creativity, skill, and a desire to serve. That's the secret ingredient to quell those cravings, no matter what the product. Which is why the Cook fruit could quite literally turn Sanji into a culinary god. The ability to turn anything into food. Anything. A friendly little tree? How about some brioche? Sword coming at you? Licorice. Building falling on top of you? Make it cake. This fruit is currently held by Streusen, who is very aptly the head chef of the Big Mom Pirates. In his simple yet capable hands, Streusen used this fruit to create the literal gourmet empire that is Whole Cake Island, on a pirate crew whose theme very heavily centers around food, and more importantly, feeding the pirate empress who runs it. Some would argue that Streusen's manipulative corporate strategies and culinary edge were more influential to the Big Mom's pirate's image than Big Mom herself. And yet, even in the face of such perfect placing, both theoretically and aesthetically, the Cook fruit is somehow even more fitting in the hands of our beloved Blackleg. Honestly, any food-based fruit from the Big Mom's Pirates Rogues Gallery would fit our man, but this one truly is the magnum opus. With this, Sanji really could feed the whole world, because the entire world is his fridge, tabletop, and stove. We've seen from Streusen that in many cases, you don't even need to cook the food that you produce from non-edible objects. It just pops out pre-prepped. Sanji's resourcefulness, creativity, technique, and most importantly, his heart devoted to serving were traits instilled right at the beginning of his introduction, and ones that would make him the perfect user to maximize this devil fruit. He's already shown to be a far better cook than anyone else we've seen throughout the series, meaning whatever food he produces would already be mouth-wateringly delicious. And combined with his training in New Kama Island, where he learned the secrets of vitality and life that reside in the art of cooking, Sanji could resurrect meals from the ground itself that could end one's will to fight before the fight even begins. Oh, and speaking of fighting, we don't even need to touch on how much of a power boost this would be to Sanji's combat. Any piece of non-living matter is his playground. And any piece of debris, blockade, or lock means absolutely nothing anymore. First things first, the man needs to equip himself with some more cutlery. A few butcher's knives, whisks, and skewers would pair very nicely with Sanji's rotation-based combat. And having full molecular control of the very ground you stand on doesn't hurt either. Need an extra jump boost? Turn the ground into jello. Need to sneak into a fortress? Make the walls dough, squeeze through them, and then reshape them. Too many enemies? Whisk the ground into a whirlpool of fudge to drown your opponents. Giant meteor coming at you? One Ifrit Jambe, and it's not only harmless, but a perfectly cooked meatball for your crew to enjoy. This power would rocket our beloved cyborg to the top of the Straw Hat food chain by a light year, being closer to the main Mugiwara himself than Zoro and others. Because the Cook fruit to Sanji is what Gear 5 was to Luffy. Ridiculous power that bends reality itself, whose very limits are your own imagination. And from recent episodes, the world has seen just how strong Gear 5 is. Sanji getting a hold of the Cook fruit would be his own transcendence. And with an awakened Cook fruit, it would be a full realization of his being. Food is Sanji's safe space. And now that the entire world is food, his soul becomes truly, fittingly free. Oda's first choice, the swim fruit. You'd think the first question on Sanji's devil fruit compatibility would be whether he could even use a devil fruit to begin with, being a product of serious genetic engineering. In fact, There are even whispers that Sanji himself might be a devil fruit, or at least was eugenically infused with its abilities, courtesy of his signature twirly eyebrows and his father's dubious scientific research into bloodline elements. With the litany of choices there are out there for a character as flamboyant and flammable as Sanji, this one didn't really make sense at first. Then on second thought, it still sort of didn't. But on the third try, things started to make a little bit more sense. The swim fruit is something of a cheat paramecia, in that its inherent properties are already half awakened. Any piece of matter Sanji touches inherits the properties of a liquid that Sanji can then swim through. Sanji has some very powerful legs, so it's safe to say he'd be an excellent swimmer, giving him some even more insane mobility through literal solid objects like he didn't have enough already. The ability to hide in a wall, roof, or even the ground would give the man some insane stealth boost too, making it easier to not only sneak into areas a lot more easily, but also launch attacks with levels of unpredictability that put even Germa's stealth suits to shame. We've seen that stealth play out with Senor Pink in his fight against Frankie, but honestly, in Sanji's hands, it's a whole other beast. And that blistering speed only gets stronger in enclosed spaces, where every wall becomes a ball pit to disappear into and pop out somewhere else. We've only ever seen the swim fruit used in solid objects. But what about the opposite? With Rokushiki techniques like airwalk, it's unclear whether Sanji could apply this ability to his fruit and swim through the sky with the grace of an Olympic swimmer. If this was the case, that makes Sanji the only Straw Hat capable of complete flight. And not only that, but even some degree of control over the sky itself. But those are just mobility buffs. Now that we know Sanji's too fast to be hit, how hard exactly does he hit? Well, to answer that question, consider the following. Solid objects take the property of liquid only to Sanji, but not to others. Imagine kicking up a chunk of building into a giant tidal wave, only to crash down in an avalanche onto a wave of opponents. That is the power of the swim fruit. To not just give Earth the freedom of water, but to then manipulate that Earth against one's enemies. This would make Sanji a great terraformer and speedster, getting behind opponents, blitzing them down, then protecting his teammates with waves of rock before flying off into the sunset. And all of that only amplifies with an awakened swim fruit. The only thing Sanji won't be swimming in anymore is literally the only thing a human can swim in. But alas, the all blue can be experienced from a boat anyways, so it's a small price to pay. Oda's second choice, the spin fruit. This is a bit of a short one, but the logic here is simple. Sanji spins, he's a little spinny boy. Oda himself has admitted in an SBS during the Bharati arc, Sanji's eyebrows reflect and channel the same rotational energy that command the orbit of the sun, moon, and stars themselves. In Oda's logic, the universe is a spiral, therefore everyone lives in circles. It just so happens to be that Sanji incorporates this ability into combat. And if you've seen any scenes of him throwing the ones, you'll immediately see how true that is. The grace of a ballerina and the orbital force of a ballistic missile are Sanji's key fighting styles, and the man executes them like a pro. So what better devil fruit would suit his thunderous spinning kicks than a literal spinning devil fruit? His kicking strength would be through the roof. This would also boost moves like Diabo Jambe and Ifrit Jambe. Why? Sanji's ultimate move acts by heating up the air around him through science, YNC, and smoke technology, sure. But also, drumroll please, air friction. And with a fruit that spins his legs hundreds of times faster than he's already spinning, that heat could reach atom-splitting levels of intensity. And let's not even get started on devil fruit awakenings. Could you spin the very earth itself? Would any battlefield turn into Sanji's personal dance floor where the only rhythm is death? With the power of the spin fruit, Sanji's status as the Straw Hat's number 4 becomes a whole lot shakier, as the Mugiwaras gain a heavy hitter with raw force that rivals Luffy's alone. But as cool as that would be, it's easy to forget that hitting hard isn't Sanji's only job on the crew. The reason Sanji doesn't have a devil fruit to begin with is because he just works better without one. There are obviously so many more potential power-ups that would pair super nicely with Sanji's lethal legs. Some honorable mentions would be the light fruit, because well, we've seen how strong Kizaru's kicks are, or Robin's flower fruit, because you know what's better than one Diabo Jambe? 2,000 Diabo Jambes. Also, the extra manpower could also be put to use in the kitchen. Any kangaroo-based Zoan fruit would fit the bill too, and Bellamy's spring-legged spring fruit isn't too bad either. All great options, but the fact remains that with pretty much every member of the crew, there lies a painstaking, meticulously crafted narrative for every Straw Hat. filled with beautiful details and powerful arcs that slow aged and matured in the wild, wonderful world of Eiichiro Oda's imagination. In a way, Oda is the real chef, with each fantastical element of One Piece being cooked to perfection with their own handcrafted recipe of character ingredients measured to the milligram. And like many characters, but especially Sanji, it's fitting enough that the secret ingredient Oda used for his incredible twirly-haired presence lies not in a devil fruit, but in love.